Welcome to the first episode of Artistic Differences.
Yes, welcome. We're a monthly cinema club hosted by UnionDocs. I'm Christopher Allen, and I'm here with beloved friend and collaborator Cintia Gil, an independent film programmer whose work is powerful and singular. Wait, did you edit this?
No, actually, no. I like the adjectives. Thank you. And I'm here with the wonderful Christopher Allen and Jenny Miller, who are themselves powerful and singular. And I love them, so I love you too.
Starting with love.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah. Thank you, Cynthia.
Jenny is co-programmer of Artistic Differences, but today she plans to be a somewhat more silent partner in the interview. We will see how that works out.
The first Saturday of each month, you can join us. Artistic Difference brings together a group of curious international people for a moment of shared focus and attention and exchange around what is very often a program of adventurous documentary films.
Yeah, and in this group, we think about the film program and we ask questions.
Without the filmmaker's presence.
Yes. And then we bring these questions to inform a discussion with the feature filmmaker or filmmakers. And we bring that conversation to you in this dispatch.
When you think about memory, you think about fiction, you think about documentary, you think about what is true. There's like a politic there.
We're talking about Ignacio Agüero, about his most recent film.
And his larger body of work.
This film is in conversation also with his previous films in many different ways, but it's also a reflection on what can documentary do, but what is the responsibility of the filmmaker.
There was a lot of talk about oral history versus written history.
And who is given authority?
There wasn't a written document of what happened. It's more the memory of the first person experience of what happened.
About the presence of the Mapuche indigenous people in the film.
It seemed like he's very rarely with someone Mapuche in the film, like in the same scene.
We talked about how the film works with the invisible layers of history.
Particularly of Ignacio's homeland, Chile.
The intensity of the geography and also the story of Chile, given to these invisible things a presence, the power of the invisibility, not superpower, but also the sensation of the ghost.
And the places of the viewer in front of the film.
Like what they know and what they don't have to know.
Any outsiders who are part of the audience, for them to be able to possess those memories, it'd be too easy. Yeah, it'd be too unfair.
Thank you all for being here and listening. This month, we are honored to host legendary Chilean filmmaker Ignacio Agüero, discussing his latest film, Notes for a Film.
Or Notas para una película.
And if you haven't seen the film, and well, it's actually not that easy to find, you can stream it until mid-December on the UnionDocs membership hub.
Yeah, and we should pause here just to say a big thank you to our members, no?
Of course, yeah. The support and engagement of our members are the reason why we are able to run this cinema club, Artistic Differences.
We are in our early days of Artistic Differences, so we especially value those brave members who came on early. You know who you are.
And if you haven't joined yet, and you can afford to contribute, please consider joining at membership.uniondocs.org. There you'll find the monthly Artistic Differences program alongside a set of cutting-edge and powerful and poetic documentary programs. Also sessions on process and the best practices from guests and thinkers who are kind of passing through our space in Ridgewood. And you can watch or listen online or via iOS or Roku in our apps. So that's how you kind of tune in.
We do this because we can do it. There's no more intellectual reasons for those kind of things.
And that was our guest for today, Ignacio Agüero. And I couldn't be more excited that he's our sort of first inaugurating this series because, I don't know, Cynthia, I just love this guy.
He's wonderful. He's extremely gentle
and
extremely funny.
Yeah.
And intelligent and generous. I think that's amazing qualities in one person.
Yeah, so a little background on Ignacio. What should we tell people?
Ignacio is from Chile.
Yeah.
And he started making films during the Pinochet dictatorship. And he didn't leave the country at that time.
Yeah, like most filmmakers were going into exile. But not him.
Not him, and this is an important aspect in his biography because his first films were somehow related to that. And there's even one film that I love very much, which is This Is the Way I Like It, where he goes and asks his colleagues who are making films why they are making films and for whom.
Yeah,
and to do that during a dictatorship is incredible.
Totally. And we talk a little bit about that with Ignacio. And
it is available for 30 days on the UnionDocs membership hub.
In fact, all the films that are part of Artistic Differences and this interview series will also be available once we release those interviews in the future.
So yeah, rush there to watch on UnionDocsmembership.org.
But Ignacio's made like 20 films, and they've been shown all over the world. He's also a teacher, right? He's a professor.
He's a professor in the University of Chile. He also acted in some films, including some Raúl Ruiz films.
Oh, right.
He also makes a quite astonishing work with this association called Zéro en Conduite, doing workshops for children. We talked about this in the conversation, but
and the
this
beautiful
is an important
film.
part.
The other beautiful film, 100 Children Waiting for
Exactly.
Train. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
When we first recorded this interview, it was October 23rd, 2023, and we were at Doc Lisboa, a wonderful film festival that Cintia has played a huge role in, where actually Agüero's film was playing and where he was on the jury. We're sorry, actually, if you can hear a little bit of the festival noise behind us. There was a lot of energy in the room that was sometimes hard to contain.
And so are the ideas from this conversation. And let's dive in it and do share with a friend.
We brought together this group of people to discuss your work, and Cintia introduced the topic of invisibility, thinking about how that operates in the film. Actually, when we started talking a lot about the first scene in the film. And we started talking about the train. And so I thought we could just begin with some ideas about the train and the landscape.
Because in the film, the train is something that you start by in that 360 panoramic. That is wonderful, because what you are saying is talking about the invisibility, what is not there, but also it's a field of possibilities, right? It's like what is also there, but we cannot see. And you mentioned the train. And then during the film, you construct the train for us. We hear it, and then we finally...
We ride it in some ways.
We ride the train.
Yes.
There's the dream about the train.
And there's a train from some other landscape also.
Yeah, and this film is loosely based on the writings of Gustave Verneury, who was a Belgian engineer who came to Araucania in the south of Chile, who was actually the Mapuche land, and he came to build the train line.
Maybe we should pause just quickly to say that the Mapuche are the group of indigenous inhabitants of south central Chile and parts of Argentina.
Yeah, and they sort of foreground this film, the historical, political, and social foreground for Notes for a Film.
I'm sure there's much more we could say about it, but just to have that little reference.
The train is both a symbol and the material of this transformation, and at some point there's the train by the Lumière brothers in the film also. So there's the technology that's allowed for this transformation of the landscape of Araucania, and this train is also a very important symbol in cinema.
Yes.
So we would like to hear you a little bit about that in your film.
Well, all what you are saying is something I had with me inside my mind, but naturally, it's not something I thought about it. I had it with me, and of course, this is a film about someone who builds the train. In those times was the inauguration of Chilean trainhood. That was something very important, the train, for all the people. Also for the colonization of the Mapuche land. And now there's no train at all. Something very violent. What happened? And well, what happened is the dictatorship. It's very clear. It was the dictatorship that ended with the railroad in Chile. So it's something very violent. So how would I begin a film about a man who built the railroad, and there's no railroad at all. So he had, and we went to the location where it really was the station where he arrived. That's exactly the place. It was very difficult to find it because people around didn't know where was the station. The people, the inhabitants of that city, Angol, they didn't know. It took us some work to know where was exactly. And there it was. You can see the big street. So it had to be that way. He arrived in a place that is an image of destruction. It's some kind funny, some kind violent, but it's very funny, to make him arrive in a place that does not exist. That was the only written scene of the film. The producers and they wanted me to show them something, the written script, which is for me very, very good. And it was the first one we shot, but we have the train station and so many images of train. It's also the train of Allende.
Yes.
The Jody Siemens.
Yes. I'm curious about the fact that that's the only written scene, because I couldn't imagine that. For example, you have that wonderful moment where we are in the forest and you are talking. The voiceover is talking about the horse, and we see Gustav walking in the middle of the forest. And we hear the story of the horse. And then there's that wonderful scene when Gustav is sick.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that scene. And I was wondering, was it written or did it really happen like that?
No. You're right. That's written. But that most of the what you hear is the text of the book. Bernier's book. There are very, very few other written texts that's mine. Well, that of the horse at the beginning, that's written by me, but nothing more.
What about that also wonderful scene when there is the strike of the workers and the negotiation?
Yeah.
And then there is a very interesting moment when they say, Viva Chile, Viva Chile mierda. I was doubting if that sentence had happened in the past, or it was a commentary to the present.
No.
Ignacio.
It was exactly written in Bernier's book.
Really?
Yes.
The way it's said, you changed to your voice.
Yes, it's me, because I didn't like the way Bernier's. We shot that many times, and I didn't like it, the way it was, so I came again the following day. We went 3 days for a scene that should have been done once. But I went 3 days. Went back to our hotel, another place, and I was unsatisfied. So next day we went again. And we could do it because there was no strict plan of shooting. No? We could do anything we wanted. So we went 3 days and we finally shot it that way. And you can see that there are 3 days because it's raining in the sun and it's raining again. So there's no continuity at all. No? And I didn't like the way he said. So after the shooting, I used my voice. But I used my voice many times in the film. And I use also the voice of the producer, a French producer, also. But you can change voices.
This is a question that came up because people were wondering if there's a logic to these switches between language, or if there's a logic to who's speaking for the narrator, or if this multiplicity, what it brings to the film.
It's very simple. We do this because we can do it.
Because you can.
Yes. And if we can, then it's in the film. We ourselves as the workers, we can, so we do it.
Because the crew stands in as actors for the, and is that
and everything is because there's no more intellectual reasons for those kind of things. But now it's a kind of theory. You do what you can.
So you could have gone a fourth day or a fifth day,
Yes.
tried to find the perfection of the performance, but for you it was not necessary.
No, and we enjoy it very much. That whole scene, no?
When you start a film by a 360 degrees panoramic, you are exactly saying we can everything. We can all
Yes.
that we want.
Yes.
We choose everything. Yesterday we were watching a film here at Toc Lisboa, and about a theater director, and in a moment he says, theater chooses everything. We have to do a lot of choices in life between things. Theater chooses everything. And it's very beautiful. And so now when you say we do it because we can, it's related to that question. But it's also related maybe to the fact that you are making a film about something invisible. And so you are constantly relating to something that cannot be visible anymore. And therefore the film is it's a notes for a film.
Well, yes, because all the film is the answer to the question how to make this film. How can we make a film about a railroad that doesn't exist and about an epoch that was gone? And how I will not make a puesta en escena of the época, no?
Historical mise en scène.
Historical mise en scène, because I prefer to do it this other way. It's much more expressive, richer, and you enjoy it much more. And you also are thinking more about what you are doing. It's not just a way to put on scene the historical period, but to think what's about the period, the present. Making a film is not just to illustrate the historical period.
Does it have to do with the truth claims of the film as well, of the relationship to fact or the authenticity of the narrative that you're putting forward?
Well, we had the text of the book, and that's the historical foundation of the film, no? All we do is relate the text to the landscape and to our possibilities of making a film with just one actor and with the crew and with the horse.
I'm curious that you refer to the text as solid.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the film is poking a lot of holes in the text. Also when the voice changes. Because if we just had one character, one voice, maybe it gives more authenticity and power to this narrative. And I think there was a sense in the group when we were discussing it that even this panoramic shot in the beginning is presenting the artifice of the filmmaking.
Yeah, I exactly related to that, to the fact that the text seemed the most fragile element in the film was the appearance of the archival photographs, the archive in the beginning, the way you use the photographs, and then the very important scene of the conversation with the Mapuche man in his house when he tells the story of his ancestors. So we have these moments in the film where we go from the images of the present, which are in black and white also, to these photographs of the times. I think photographs done by Gustave himself, no?
Some of them,
yeah.
These photographs are amazing.
In a way, they speak both of a system that was created, a power system, but it also testifies of a disappearance, of a violence, right? So in a way, Ignacio, there was this sense that you took the book and then there was a dialectics between the text of the book and the force, the strength of these materials that were coming from the past that you used.
It doesn't seem like there's a loyalty to the book, or is there?
Oh yes, there is.
There is.
I think there is, because I find it's very well written, huh? And I think it's beautiful.
I think we feel that in the film, that the writing of the book is beautiful and you were enjoying. There's a pleasure with the text. We feel, yeah.
But okay, and then later we use the text as we really want. There's no, in that sense, you're right. When we're not being loyal to anything, but to the beauty of the text and what he really said. but then we use it and move it as we wish. No, we're not really telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the purpose of the film, to tell a story with an end, beginning, and middle. No, it's just wandering inside the space and the times, different times in the space. Also, together with that, how to make the film. Mm-hmm. That question of how to make the film, it's very important for me to be with that question in every shot. No? So it's, you don't have the answer of how to make the film until you are shooting.
But this is something in all your films.
Yes,
no?
Yes.
Not just this film.
Yes. But this film, it's different because it's inspired in a book. It's the first film I make inspired in a book.
Do you want the audience to be asking that question too?
Yes, I think it's very important. I think my films invite the audience to be part of the film. I expect that. I think that can happen, and the spectator feels he can do the film.
Actually, that's I wanted to bring that up because when I saw the film for the first time, it was in the world premiere in Chile, in Valdivia. And I was very impressed because you entered, it was a crowded room. I asked how many seats and they told me 400 something seats. Very big room. And you entered the room and you had a standing ovation for I don't know how long, very long, before the film. And that was the first time in my life that I saw having someone alive, like here next to me, having a standing ovation for so long before the film. And I thought, okay, because I had seen your films in Europe. I had never seen them in Chile. And I realized, okay, there is a connection with the real spectators. Because I think that the spectators in your cinema are very important. When I watch your films, I feel that you are always doing an invitation to the viewer. But for me, it was very striking and very moving to see that actually that invitation was accepted.
Yes.
And the spectators understand that. And I feel that the reason why the film has such a strong political, even, strength is exactly maybe, but I would like to hear you, maybe because you leave that open door to the viewer for the film.
Yes, maybe I transmit to the viewer the fact that anyone can make a film. We don't have to study cinema or study filmmaking. Everyone can be free in creation. And that's, I think, is the invitation. I myself feel it that way, as a simple person that is creating something, and that needs no special studies or nothing. Everyone can do that. So I think that it's transmitted, and it's transmitted because I that's the way I begin in cinema also. I began when I saw a film of the Cuban Tomás Gutiérrez, Memorias del Subdesarrollo.
Desde que se quemó el encanto, La Habana parece una ciudad de provincia.
When I saw that film, I was invited by him to make films.
Pensar que antes la llamaban el París del Caribe.
I feel like in the study group there was a sense of this invitation, and there was also a sense that the small crew had offered a different kind of sincerity of possibility and of expression than like the big budget film or something. Even though there's a lot of technical mastery in the film, you have the sense that you're in the hands of a craftsperson who knows this tool very well. There's also openings, and I just wonder if you have thoughts about scale of production in relationship to how we get this invitation.
I have no sense of scale of production. This film is the biggest production, no? Ever.
But and how did it feel?
and also because it's different from my other films, in which I shoot 30 days in 2 years, for example, or And here, well, I shot also 30 years, but in 3 weeks, in the industrial way, we say.
Yeah. Every day waking up at
Yes.
9 o'clock reporting to work.
Yes. So I went every day in the morning with something like a script, which wasn't a script, to shoot.
And how did you cast your actor, Ignacio? Who is that man?
He's a Belgian young man who is a producer of honey. He works with bees in near Santiago. He saw our call in the internet, and there was very few people who applied, about 6 or 7 people. Belgians. We wanted Belgians.
Oh, you wanted specifically Belgians?
It had to be a Belgian.
Yes, we wanted.
Why?
Because of the accent.
Okay. That's very interesting that you were precise about that authenticity of the accent.
I wanted that the Belgians would feel that, not French, because French hates Belgians. You know, one of my producers was French, Amalric, and he was the one who was correcting his text.
We see that.
It's in the film.
And there's a part where the Belgian says no. She said, I don't remember exactly, but no, this is a way to say it. Well, we wanted a Belgian, a young Belgian who lived in Chile because we didn't have the money to bring an actor, and we didn't want an actor.
It's very interesting. How did you work with him?
Well, it was just the fact that he had never been in front of a camera before, and that there was no acting direction. Well, of course, he wanted to work in the film, and he was very well disposed to this. So there was nothing more than that, and he was going with us to every shooting, although we didn't use him, but he was with us in the part of the crew. He was always part of it. And you can see him as a worker in the counter shop of the strike.
Yeah,
he's a worker.
Yeah, it's true.
He's coming with us as a worker.
Yeah,
he was an excellent guy, Alexis.
I wanted to ask you about the dogs, because I love the way you include the dogs in your film, the stray dogs. Yeah. And there is a wonderful moment when we have Gustav changing clothes in different, like a very sort of paste cut, where he changes different clothes, and you start talking about the Civil War, the beginning of the Civil War. And when you announce the Civil War, we are again in the street, and we have these very expressive shots of the dogs. And I found that very, very striking. Yeah, very expressive, almost dramatic. Yes. It touched me a lot. It makes me sad looking at those shots. So I wanted to ask you about that.
I like it a lot also. It's part of the favorite images of my film, especially the one when the camera moves and finds a little dog that makes me cry, no? That dog.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful dog that's coming, very cold, all wet by the rain, and he's trying to make contact with us. And he looks at us. And it's beautiful, no? And what I like is that we, the crew, the camera, in the shooting, we're open to that. That we're expecting those things to happen. No, it's not. That's why it's not a matter of a script that you have to shoot an image or a scene. But instead of that, you are hearing and looking what's going on in that place when the camera is running. And what's going on then in that moment are the dogs that are so Chilean. Huh? That's a kind of, I have said that dog is Chile. Chile is that dog. It's not the leopard. It's a little dog, beautiful dog, who's asking for a place in the film. And that's beautiful. That's what I like of making films, to discover those images.
It's amazing. I mean, it's a film about, it's nation building in many ways, but then you find the nation in the dog. You brought up the interview with the Mapuche, and of course we want to hear more about your thoughts about the presentation of this interview versus the text and the book.
Yeah.
And there was a question of oral history versus book history, written history, and whether or not one is foregrounded or one is in the background, or they're on equal levels in the film. And I think this is something we argued a little bit about. Some people, I think, in the study group felt like actually a lot of the whole apparatus of the film is just to get us to the interview, so we can listen to the Mapuche in this uncut, because this is one scene that is really, it's a very long interview. It's not edited and cut. It's just, we're just listening. And then others were saying that, no, these are sort of parallel lines that are both given equal weight, and they're back and forth. So, yeah, just curious about this interview and written versus oral history.
Yeah, no, and just to add that we also commented the fact that Gustav is there listening to the translation, so we're not just listening to the testimony of their history, but we're also looking at Gustav, who saw the archives in the beginning of the film, and now he's also listening. So there's something there about transmission in a way that is also interesting.
Well, because we are making a film in Araucanía, which is the Mapuche land. We have to assume that. It's very important, I think, in that scene also, that the actor, Alexis Verniori, is listening to the Mapuche man. He's there. Also, when he sees the Raúl Ruiz film, the film takes him to the cinema to watch this film, because he has to be aware of where he's going to work. We ourselves, as the crew, as the director of the film, we have to do that also. We do that. We hear. We have to assume where we are going. We don't know much about it. And it's very important that he talks in Mapudungun, in his language. Not everyone speaks Mapudungun in the Mapuche people. No? And it wasn't easy to find one. And it was very important that he could speak in Mapudungun. And also there's a scene where a Mapuche teaches Ranieri.
Right.
The Mapudungun.
That's a beautiful scene. We also, it was very mentioned in
compadre. Inche nana titfa mofu peñi la mian nhai guelu thuma café machi templer point chique al cupain kuifiki dumu al cupain kuifiki nutam.
This wise guy, engineer, sits down and listens a Mapuche that's teaching him. Those are scenes, I think, that haven't been seen before. That kind of scenes in Chilean cinema.
I don't want to put you in a dangerous zone, but would you say that in a way there is the possibility of cinema to do some sort of reparation to our histories, to our past?
Well, we have to yes, we have to choose if we do it or not. Obviously, something that we have to consider. How to make it, I don't know how you can make that, but at least you have to listen Mapuche people. And we were very lucky to find that person. It wasn't easy. We took a lot of time to find him. We looked a lot for people that could say what he said. And he said it once.
You didn't have to go back for day two or day three?
No.
It's a very extraordinary scene.
Yes.
And you completely, in that scene, you completely give up the rules of the camera from the rest of the film and you do something else. It's a very physical camera. It's a camera that is listening. There is this moment when you go from him to the other Mapuche comrades who are looking at him and listening to their own history.
Yeah.
It's very strong.
We were supposed to shoot the father of this man, who was in his house outside. In his house it was a ruka, an Indian ruka. And he was about 103 years old. All the family wanted us to shoot him, the father. And we went there and father said, "You won't shoot me because you are white and I'm Mapuche. You won't hear me." So we went to his son's house outside. And that's how the scene came in.
When he's talking about the negotiations and this terrible moment when he tells about becoming a Chilean, for me, the way he describes that is actually not very far away from the text of Verneuil. There is a Romanesque aspect to the way he completely has the story with him. He's not just saying, "I heard that." He owns that history.
Yes, and you can see her mother's photograph in front of the camera. No, he put it there to remember his life. No, when he was a child, they carry the story with them. So he is a university teacher, that man, in the south of Chile. But he lives there in his land. He's a very wise man.
Mm-hmm. And what about the last man we see in the end of the film?
He's a brother of the first one.
Okay.
And this brother is the lonco, the chief of the community.
Hey, Taul Chen Che, Taul Lun Tanipuche, hey Chiantu, Tipale cosecha, Uneto Rantuhin, Patale Gatan, Antini Gatanti Winka. Hey Pivin, Chumayan de Pupeni Polanian. No en Mavin, Ranin Gatanti Gulmen, Cam espera in ta cosecha con el Pivinian. Hey, quien hay que me lique one two. Quitémosle la mitad, nada, fin cosecha, la mitad, tiro el men. Chumala en Chinima Puma cosecha, me que palo, a gente cosecha, a gente que el men, a gente moñepa in Chintani Mapumeo. Chumalanta, come te fin que tan, mleita ni culiel, la mitad, pingan.
And I'm very curious about the moment you decide to bring Lumière, because you bring that image, that shot, and although I have seen that shot many times, in that film, I didn't immediately recognize the shot. It becomes the train of Angola.
Chile, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he can.
Because he can.
When I shoot this, when you're in the train station, railway station, and he looks there, to the north or to the south, what he sees, a train coming. Which train? The first train of history of cinema. Why not? It has to. It had to be that way because it fits so well, no?
No, absolutely.
And as you say, you don't say immediately it's a Lumière train. It's an Angola train, and it was more or less the same year, no?
Yeah, I went to check, yes.
Yes.
It's very funny because you were talking between 1886, 89 and 1895. And
yes.
The train was more or less in 1890.
In the middle of the story, Berneri's story.
Yeah.
So it had to come in.
These parallel tracks of history, the train and the cinema,
yes.
Obviously always interlinked. Because of course we know how the railroad is used as a mode of extraction, as a way of taking from the land. But is the cinema also somehow pulling out from a natural essence or from something given?
How documentary cinema has this double identity, this double démarche. On the one hand, it creates memory and it sort of gives us a sense of time and of a past. And in a way, it gives us a place to exist in time. But on the other hand, it's also extracting from reality. It's in a way, there's some vampirical aspects of documentary. This contradiction, I find it very beautiful.
History is the history of destruction and creation. That's the story, of the world. We also use the Japanese train. The train, of course, it at the end, it was something very democratic to the people, and to including the Mapuche also, because they got used to the use of the train. So train with all the ramals going to all parts of Chile, not only the truncal railroad, but the little railroads that cross the country. It made a very democratic possibility of communication for everyone, once it was settled that this was Chile. But now it doesn't exist. We lost that possibility.
Do you feel the loss of a democratic possibility?
Yes,
It feels that?
Sure.
Yeah, and there is also this reflection about citizenship in your film. What does it mean to be Chilean, right?
Yes.
And I wonder in what way you feel that it's a reflection that is still important today to be made. Because you were saying that image of the dog is Chile for you, and that's very beautiful. Because in a way you're putting the sense of a nation outside the founding documents. It's something else. It's a sensation, it's an emotion, it's a state of being, it's a fragility also. But then in your film there's also the citizenship, and it's very contradictory. That history of citizenship, it's violent also.
Yes, it's very violent. It's up to now, it's violent. And it's not a question that has been answered. What's being Chilean? It's not answered. And of course there is some images of what it is to be a Chilean. You know that it's incredible that up to today, Mapuche have no space in the Chilean society. They have no space. They're still repressed as a people, as a nation. It's incredible. But up to today, that's the way it is. And so being Chilean, what is it to be Chilean? To be not Mapuche, to be the image of white people that are different from our neighbors, from Peru, full of Indians, Bolivia, full of Indians. We know we are not Indians. It's not answered.
I wanted to ask you also about the way you film the forest and the nature. It's a very...
Yeah, we didn't talk about the land yet, yeah. It's such a huge part of the film.
Yeah, and it's very, very striking because you chose the black and white, which I guess you didn't choose just because you're talking about the past. You chose it for very specific reasons that I would love to hear you about. But you have a very sensual way of filming the forest, very physical. Sometimes it feels like you're caressing the forest, but also trying to see through.
Well, when Yuri said he fall in love with Chile because of its landscapes, its forests, nature, he was impressed by that, comparing it with Belgium. He loved the sea, the coast, the nature. He loved it, the volcanoes, the mountains, and everything. And we try to follow that sense of looking, of understanding a place. And we really looked for a forest, he said, that was, in the book he says, it's absolutely dark when you go in. There's absolutely dark, because the sun doesn't come in. It's so deep, the forest, the leaves, the branches, that there's no light. And we looked for that place. We couldn't find it today. But what we were looking for was that, the absolutely darkness in the forest.
And what about the black and white, Ignacio?
Well, black and white it has no any intellectual reason to decide that. It's just that I could not imagine ever the film in color, because I looked at the places and it was so ugly, to watch the color of the things. No, didn't like it at all. And black and white is beautiful, to see the forest in black and white. I think it's beautiful. Some people had told me after the film that they didn't notice it was black and white.
Well, it's not entirely.
That's very beautiful.
There are two shots, right, in color?
No, there is the Raúl Ruiz archive, and then there is the dream in color.
Yeah, and the Japanese train.
Yeah, the dream, yeah. And you're talking about the future there, right? He's dreaming about the future.
Some people talked about the land as having a superpower in the study group, as feeling like it was, these other narratives are maybe unreliable to some extent. We don't know if we trust them necessarily, that this coming back to the land gives you something to trust, gives you something consistent in the film. There's just a vitality there.
The nature, the mountains, the cordillera, the forest have 100 or 1,000 or million of years. So there you have the epoch.
You're extending into kind of a geological
yes.
timescape,
Yes.
a broader sense of history.
Yes, so that's the epoch.
Almost beyond a period.
I brought up two quotes from you, Ignacio, to the study group. I'm not sure it's you were relating to this film, but you say, when a geologist observes a desert landscape, he does not see a still image. He sees the movement of formation of mountains and canyons, the erosion of volcanoes. Cinema does the same. It is there between the images that the time erupts without measure, associated with emotions and thoughts, and that is what troubles the spectator. So it's very interesting, because if we want to access time, we just have to look.
Yes, because the other part of the epoca is the clothes of the actor, and that's all.
Yes.
What was the end of Gustave Vernieri?
He left after 10 years. He went back home, and he continued traveling through the world. He went to Egypt and continued building big structures of iron all over the world. So he was always traveling.
Did he build this bridge that we see many times?
Yes, he
built that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, his geographical zone of about 100 kilometers that he built.
Wow.
I wanted to bring a question up more about the context of your work, because your films have a very strong emotional, aesthetic, of course, but also political and historical relation with Chile. Chile is very important for you, obviously. Be it the minor possibilities of Chile or the bigger questions, but it's there. But at the same time, I feel the films have a very interesting connection to the history of documentary and to what documentary can be in a more general sense. So I wanted to ask you about that. You talked about Memorias del Subdesarrollo, but I want to ask you about this relation between you as a filmmaker and your imagination and how you built it, between being in Chile and being interested in Chile, but also living the world of cinema. Who would you sit at your table? Who are the people you have dinner with in your imagination when you think about your cinema?
Angelopoulos, Taviani, Ruiz, Sergio Bravo, and my students.
So Theo Angelopoulos, the Taviani brothers, Raúl Ruiz, and your students.
I think in Chile they are very good filmmakers and young filmmakers. And I think we have in Chile, I don't know why, but we have poets, very good poets, and filmmakers, much more than other creators in other arts or in football. We have a good filmmakers, I think, and I can see it in the young people, people, and you, of course, you both, in this table.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Ignacio. I love being at your table. But I want to listen to you a little bit more about teaching cinema, because that's transmission more than teaching, right? It's something else. It's a very important issue.
I also think so. It's an important issue, and I always really I'm always asking myself, why am I a teacher? You know, the film. And if what is it do I have to teach? And I really say nothing. I have nothing to teach anyone about cinema, no? or in creation. And I say that to my students always, that we're the same, we're equal. We're horizontally placed in a school where we only share experiences, and we share the act of creating. We are the same. I cannot teach you or no one how to make something. We just have to do it, create it, and talk about it. That's all the relation we can have. Well, there's no teaching. There's only sharing, creation, and conversation, and also viewing films. That's the way of learning, to watch films, to make films, and to talk about films, which is what we do here now in the festival. So I have a group that's called Cero en Conducta, that works making a film workshop for children in Chile. That's what the basic question is: how to create the link with a mind, a child's mind, and cinema. How to create that link without spoiling it. Because if you begin to teach the children how to make cinema, you spoil everything. It's just to create the link. That's what we have to do as or anyone who feels can teach. Is that to make the link between anyone and cinema. And I think that's why I think my films do that also, by itself. They create the link of cinema and a mind.
Yeah, it's also about listening, right?
Yes.
To create that link. But it's very interesting because in a way we're talking about the possibility that cinema, filmmaking, and I think even arts, being something that exists and creates community, exists and creates in the collective of society, of people together. There is this space of sharing that you are talking about that I feel is very much inside your films.
Yeah.
It's not just after.
Yes. There's a question, which is why cinema is not in school, in national school all over the country. No? Why? It should be essential for the emancipation of people, no? Of child, of students. Essential to live with cinema, because cinema has such a great capacity of teaching by itself. Cinema is, what we have said, is that cinema is school by itself. Cinema is school. If you have a relationship with cinema, being a student, a child in school, you are really expanding your view, your vision, your intelligence, your everything. And if you do that in school, you're making a big community. No, that's what it should be. And we created this Cero en Conducta organization to develop that idea and that practice and that exercise of carrying the film to school, making that link. Well, and that comes from Alicia Vega in 100 Children for a Train, and also from Alain Bergala and all what he has created in France and all over the world with his this organization that's called Cinéma Cent Ans de Jeunesse. So we try to practice that. But I think, and then the important thing is to create the link, and that would be all. There's nothing more. Then you have to make, view, and discuss and talk, and that's a new country, no? You have that, you have a new country, no? A new society.
Absolutely.
Imagine.
But it's very interesting because you're talking about that, and that's a deeply democratic perspective. But you were doing that also during dictatorship, because como me da la gana uno
yes,
is shot during dictatorship, and what you're doing is exactly asking for the link, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're asking.
Cintia, can I just pause you for a second there to explain a little bit about that film, This Is the Way I Like It?
Yeah, so Ignacio did this film during the Pinochet dictatorship in Chile. It's a film where he decided to go to his fellow filmmakers' shootings. They were making films, and ask them why they were making films and for whom. And what I love about it, and I think it's important to say, is that Ignacio didn't go there as a sort of judgmental voice. That's not, I think, Ignacio, that's not your attitude towards what could be political in filmmaking. It's not about judgment, it's about understanding and trying to build bonds and connections when connections are so difficult to build, as in a dictatorship.
And also some interruptions, because he steps onto the set and sort of stops them in the midst of what they're doing and asks them these important sort of soul-searching questions about the purpose of their work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
I had done before the other film, which is called No Olvidar, Not to Forget. And when I did that film, I had the possibility of making many films of that type. Films about repression and human rights. I really had the chance to do it. I would have been financed to do that. And it scared me. It scared me not because of repression, but what scared me was the fact of being someone specialized in a type of film, human rights film. I didn't want to do that.
Why?
Because I didn't want the specialization, because that would turn me out of cinema. Cinema is not that. I really wanted to discover film, discover cinema. And I think I did it somehow with that film, the first one, not to forget. And I wanted to continue with that, but not specializing in a type of film. I didn't want to do that. So then I went to this other film, Como me da la gana, as an answer to that problem. What to do was my question then. What can I do? What shall I do if with the dictatorship on top of me and the possibility of making human rights films? Mm-hmm. What do I do if I don't want to make human rights film? And so what I did was I will go to ask these questions to my colleagues. So I went to the shootings, and then I discovered that was a way of making film, to invent. No, that you could make a film with a question, not with something you know, something about that you don't know, about a doubt. That's then I learned about that. You can make a film without knowing nothing, with a doubt, with a question. So you go and ask the others. But the important thing was to create the way of doing it. And the way, which I liked a lot, was to interrupt the shootings. Listen, I'm here, I'm coming with my question.
Yeah. And it's very important.
This is a big disruption.
Yes.
These questions you were asking, we wondered if maybe were some answers in your most recent film. Some people were suggesting that this film was also not only revisiting the history of Chile, but also your own history of filmmaking. And we wondered if that sounds true to you, first of all, if there is some kind of diary aspect of your film history in it. And also, if these questions about intention and purpose are baked into this new film.
Yes, I think so. Because I think that my basic gesture in every film I've done is what can I find out now in cinema? Because never would be the topic the most important thing, but what I discovered with the filmmaking, with the film itself, with cinema. Because I think cinema is a way of knowing the deepness or the complexity of the world, the life. The cinema is for that, to touch the deepness, to make contact with the unknown, the deepness, the complexity of the film we saw, the French one.
It's New World by Nicolas Klotz and Elisabeth Perceval. It's a film that was shown here in the international competition, and Nicolas Klotz and Elisabeth Perceval are really important authors from France that, have been showing their work in Doc Lisboa for a long time.
Yes, for example, it's a film that's trying to make contact with the deepness, to going forward.
But it's a film that has a lot of connections with this film of yours, with Notes for a Film, because it also is a film that is with its feet on a place.
Yes.
Very much, and looking at something that cannot be seen. And cinema, looking at how cinema can give account of what is not there. Both films try to do that in very different ways, but they are both looking at that.
Yes, and that's you feel it in the long shots of that film, that there's something behind, and something's further, but that at the same time it's present in what you're watching, what you're seeing, no, the horse, the landscape, and time, including the duration of the shot.
It's very beautiful, Ignacio, because there are not so many filmmakers that are so curious to see other filmmakers' films. I've noticed that you are curious about other people's works, and that's very interesting. How do you feel about discovering other people's films?
Well, I really enjoyed the first place. Enjoyed, and it makes me think about what I do, and I love to admire other creators. No, I can admire a student of mine when he arrives with an exercise, for example, incredible exercise. I can feel that a young student comes with an exercise that is brilliant, having made contact with something we didn't know, just with the two shots. Huh? And I can see that there, or in One Bing, or on your French directors, in so many places, so many people, and that's beautiful, no? To discover that has to do also with the love for cinema, because cinema is so generous to provide you with beauty and knowledge, both. And also it stimulates you to create. So what more can you ask for something, no? Cinema.
I don't know what more we can ask you either, because you have been very generous and shared so much knowledge with us today. Thank you for that. So for our listeners, and we've been talking a lot about listening, I wonder if there's a sound that we might conclude this interview with that you would like people just to listen to. From your film or from anywhere, we'll find it and we'll put it at the end of this interview for people just to listen as we drift off.
The voice of the mother of the child of Angelopoulos films. That she shouts, Alexander.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, huh? Really.
We'll listen to that as we go.
It's a call for what we have been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. The link that you were talking about.
It's a
That's
link.
the link.
Well, thank you for this link.
Thank
you so much, Ignacio.
Thank you.
To end this conversation, we're going to play the sound requested by Ignacio. But before we do that, we should just say very quickly that you're very welcome to join us the first Saturday of each month to join the Cinema Club to discuss these films in depth. And we will then bring the questions that are generated from that conversation to the interview with our next guest. So first Saturday of the month, please join us for Artistic Differences.
You have been listening to Artistic Differences. We wanted to say thank you on behalf of our whole team. That's Cintia Gil, Christopher Allen, and I'm Jenny Miller. To our partners at Doc Lisboa, to our most patient podcast editor, Rui Alves de Sousa, to Constanza Pinello and Elisa Sepulveda. Thank you to our guest, Ignacio Agüero, for sharing his work and ideas in this conversation, and to Andre Simoes for the music you heard in today's episode, and to all of you for listening. And of course, to the members of our wonderful cinema club that meets the first Saturday of every month. You can sign up online and join us next time at uniondocs.org/artistic-differences and watch the films at membership.uniondocs.org. Hope to see you soon. Thanks again. Bye.